My great-grandfather, James Tilson, was, well, great. I never met the bloke, but from what I know he did many great things. He fought on the beaches of Gallipoli with the Australian Light Horse. He served as Mayor of Wangaratta, and he even ran for a seat in the Federal Parliament. But what I didn't know much about was what he did for a living. I know he was raised in Murchison in Victoria and started working as a clerk for the Victorian Railways in 1905 at the tender age of 17. But that's where it ends. I've since come to discover that it was more than just a job for him, and he was quite well respected in the Victorian Railways. Following his service in the First World War, he served as station master at Murchison East, Broadford, Healesville, Maffra, Umurka, Mildura and Wangaratta, where he finally settled. Which, when I think about it, is the whole reason why I live now. But this story isn't about the end, it's about the beginning.
Paddling jacks, driving on the tracks, and so much more. Come along with old things outdoors.
I'm on another abandoned railway adventure today, a bit shorter than my last one. I've come over here to Rushworth, which is in central Victoria, to check out the Colburn spur line, which comes off the Tocumwal main line. It was opened in 1890 and closed in 1987. It's about 40 kilometres, which ran from the spur junction at Murchison East all the way out to Colburn, and here at Rushworth there is still a lot of rail infrastructure in place. There was a spur that actually came off here and turned right up to Gurgarri, but the main spur kept going towards Colburn. I believe it was mainly to service the grain trade through the area, but Rushworth is very similar to Rutherglen in that there was a lot of gold discovered around this area, and this is what sort of brought the settlement here to Rushworth. People searching for gold, and hence rail line come through as well. Now there is some sidings here where it branches off towards some good sheds. There's also a nice big overpass up there for pedestrians as well, and there's lots of infrastructure in place like these switches here to switch the tracks manually. Now this line holds a bit of significance for me personally, as my great-grandfather began his working life as a rail clerk back down there at Murchison, where the branch line branches off from the main line to Tocumwal. He was a rail clerk there up until the start of the First World War, when he joined the army and set off overseas. But what I'm going to do today is have a look at what remains of the rail infrastructure here. It goes for about 1 kilometre in that direction, but most of this line has been turned into rail trails like so many have across Victoria. So let's keep going and have a look at what's still here. So you can see the main line running through here to the left, but there's 3 sidings that break off there to go over to the goods shed. All of the manual switches seem to be rusted in place. Haven't been able to move any of those, but a lot of infrastructure here, which is really interesting that it's still in place. Looks like there's actually a 4th siding here too that runs around to the right of that goods shed down there. This situation actually feels quite unique. All of the other spur lines that I'd visited that had still had rail infrastructure in place, the first parts to be removed were usually the parts in the towns, and then the rest of it was removed to make way for rail trails. But it seems to be the opposite here. The rail trails have been put in between the towns, and this right smack dab in the middle of Rushworth is all still in place. That's cool to see, because I haven't really seen a lot of sidings in some of the other rail lines that I've looked at, whereas this one's got heaps of these sidings in place, and they all seem to be in relatively good condition apart from the timber sleepers that have rotted a bit. But again, this line's been out of commission for better part of 35 years. And that right there is where this part of the line ends. It's only about a kilometre section back from where I started, but so much history and so much infrastructure still in place on this part of the line. So what I'm going to do now is drive over to Murchison East, where this line spurs off, and we can check out where my great-grandfather started his career in the railways. So I've just stopped in Murchison, near to where the Colburn railway line branches off from the Tokemore line, and this is where my family is originally from. So up here is my great-great-uncle Francis Tilson, who was killed in the First World War on the First World War honour roll here. But we've also got all of the family names over on the honour roll of the people who served during those conflicts. So James Charles Tilson right there is my great-grandfather, who served in the First World War with the Light Horse Brigade, and he was a rail clerk here at Murchison prior to the First World War. Well, here I am at the site of the Murchison railway station. That building over there, which unfortunately is on private property, would have been part of the station complex. I'd say it's probably a grain silo or something that was used to store grain on the line. But you can see the lines there go straight into that area there, and the station would have been in that area there. So it's really cool to actually see some rails here still in place. So what you can see there is the remains of the bridge where the Colburn line crossed the Goulburn River. You can see the Goulburn is well and truly in flood at the moment. We've had a lot of rain recently, but it is nice to see the remains of such a beautiful old rail bridge here too. And about a kilometre in that direction is where the Colburn line merges with the Tokemore rail line, which is still an active track. And here I am standing right next to the Tokemore line, where the Colburn line branches off and heads in the 40 kilometres in that direction. Following the end of the war, James returned to Murchison East, eventually taking up the role of station master. While it was a far cry from the battlefields, and at times mundane, the railways helped transform the country and was a big part of what made him Great.